Okay, welcome everybody to the first ever Verkle Implementers Call. Thank you all very much for joining. We will try to make this as productive and informative for everybody, and we will try to keep the cadence of these calls going forward at a schedule that makes the most sense. And we can talk about this at the end of the call. But yes, thank you again, everybody, for joining. I mentioned that the agenda is shared in the chat. Feel free to give that a look. And if you have any questions, comments, things that you would like to see that are not there, feel free to drop that in the chat as well. So I'll kick things off with just a high-level overview of where Verkle is today. I think many of you may already be aware of this, so I'll maybe just go through it quickly, sort of rapid fire. But feel free to, again, just let me know if there's certain things that are not clear or you would like us to explain in more detail, and I may tag Guillaume and others for that. But I'll just go through sort of the current state of Verkle world, and then we'll, just keep going through the agenda items that we have listed out. So current state of Verkle world, we have a testnet live. This has actually been live now for a few weeks. Testnet has proofs in blocks, which is exciting. This is the Kostanin testnet. Sorry, and on this testnet, we have Lighthouse and Geth. I believe, Guillaume, correct me if I'm wrong here. The Lighthouse and Geth combo has been live now for a while. And
I think there's also Nethermind, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Tanishq, could you confirm?
Yeah, Nethermind is also live on the testnet.
Perfect. Yes, and so that's been, as far as I understand it, going fairly smoothly, and it's all been exciting. Beyond that, we've spent, and we meaning not myself, but Ignacio, Guillaume, Donkrad, a bunch of others that, apologies that I won't list out right now. Sorry, I'm getting pinged for more folks to join. Have put in a lot of work over the past few months, focused on performance optimizations. And again, Ignacio, Donkrad, Guillaume, a lot of folks have really put in a lot of effort there. We now only experience a 40% overhead when replaying blocks compared to the MPT world, which is good news. We feel that we are in a very good position given where we are today, and I think perhaps there are still open questions in terms of what's overhead acceptable, and we can talk more about that, but that's where we are today, and again, a lot of really awesome work has gone into that. So where are we focusing efforts today? Right now, we are focusing more of our efforts on the actual Merkle to Verkle migration. I understand that Nethermind perhaps is also doing some work on the sync itself, which is important, of course, but a lot of more recent effort, again, has been focused on the actual migration. How do we move from the Merkle to Verkle world? And so we'll get more into that as well later today on the agenda. So that's just a really quick high-level overview of where Verkle is. Hopefully that was at least somewhat helpful. If folks have any questions, feel free to jump in now if you'd like, or again, just draw messages in the chat. Cool. With that, I will pause for a quick second, and then we can hand it over to Guillaume. Do you want to handle agenda item number 2, the teardown of Beverly Hills?
Yeah, sure. So you might have, if you've been following Verkle a little bit, you know there are indeed 2 testnets. There's Beverly Hills, which is one that does not have proofs in blocks, does not package the proofs in the blocks. And its purpose was just to test if dApps still work, and allow other clients to make sure they, like it serves as a first step for other clients who want to support Verkle trees to join other execution clients. we would like to relaunch it a bit further because currently the testnet is pre Capella. Sorry, the other way around, pre Shanghai. But yeah, we so far it's been consuming a lot of yeah, like basically it's been costing a lot of money, and it's not really useful at this point because the two clients that started implementing their like Verkle trees already are on Kaustinen. So we were thinking of tearing it down for a while, performing a rebase. I mean, at least Geth needs a rebase to provide Verkle in a post Shanghai world. I don't know about Nethermind. So unless there's opposition, we would be tearing it down next Friday, and yeah, to relaunch it at a later time when Geth is ready, and yeah, if Nethermind also needs a rebase, we'll wait for Nethermind. Yeah, just checking out if someone is against the idea. Both testnets are proof of stake.
Sounds like no objections to it, the teardown.
Excellent. Then yeah, we'll publish a teardown date, but it will be next Friday at some yeah, European time probably.
Perfect. Is there any action items needed for me, Guillaume, to mark here?
Maybe help propagating the information in case someone did not attend this call. But from what I understand, most of the people interested in the topic are here today.
Perfect. Okay, then we can move to the third agenda item, which is the overview of the potential conversion methods. Guillaume, do you want to dive into this as well, or?
Sure. So I'm sharing, for those who haven't seen it, I'm sharing the document that Perry and I wrote. Perry, if I say something inaccurate, feel free to jump in, of course. And I guess I will also share my screen if I can find a way to do this. Right. Right, that's the one. Okay, so yeah, this document basically gives an overview of the four methods that we have, or at least that have been proposed and considered seriously. We don't really include, yeah, we don't, it doesn't include all the methods that were proposed, like, but never really considered, like what we called the roll-up appreciation week, where we just stop producing blocks for a week, giving enough time for everybody to convert. But there's basically so there's four methods. Actually, there's really two methods with each has two sub method or sub approach. There's the overlay tree, which is a method. I mean, I will detail every single one of them, but the idea is you have two trees and you move the data from the Merkle tree to the Verkle tree little by little over time. There's what we call the offline method or the conversion node. So this is a method in which only like a limited set of computers, of very powerful computers, do the conversion as quickly as possible, and then distribute the result over the network. And then it's up to each node to download this the result of that conversion and replay blocks on top of it to catch up with the head of the chain before the fork, before the Verkle fork. There's the local bulk, which I won't go too much into detail, because it's just like the conversion node, but everybody does it. So it's basically the hybrid between overlay and the conversion node. It's mostly the worst of both worlds. And there's what has been dubbed the state expiry method, because it has been suggested in the EIP, in the EIP draft for state expiry. And the idea is that the transition doesn't really happen. The MPT, so it's like the overlay, except you don't have this process that moves values from the MPT into the Verkle tree. So what happens is that when you want to read the state, you go into the Verkle tree first, and if you don't find the data, you go into the MPT. And this is a method that is really interesting if state expiry gets implemented, because eventually the MPT will be converted offline and replaced, and in fact deleted altogether, and the data that used to be in the Merkle tree that was not clobbered by the Verkle tree can be downloaded by passing proofs at a later stage. But all this is described in the state expiry PR. Sorry, not PR, EIP draft. So just to go over them quickly. So yeah, I invite you to read the document, make some comments. But the idea behind the overlay is you start with an empty overlay tree, which is Verkle, and you have the base tree, and the base tree becomes read-only, and then you have an iterator for both the accounts and the storage. And as block progresses, as the chain progresses, you just convert leaves from both the account tree and the storage tree in like storage iteration order, and you move them to the overlay tree. And then the method is that if you want to read some data, first you hit the overlay tree. If you don't find the data in the Verkle tree, then you go into the base tree, the Merkle Patricia tree, to get your data. And this goes on until the whole iterator, until the iterator has gone over the entire tree. And when this is done, all the data needs to, that used to be in the MPT has been converted converted and placed into the overlay tree. And as a result, the data can be deleted. And the interesting part, I mean, there are many interesting parts, but one of them was this, the interesting part of this approach is that what has been, it actually shows in the next diagram, what is right of what I call the conversion boundary. So what has not, what has already been covered by the iterator can be deleted. When you delete that data, you do not update the root of the tree, so virtually the tree remains untouched, the MPT remains untouched, but that data will never be read. The data left of the conversion boundary will not be read, so you might as well delete it to save some space. And it's got some interesting properties with respect to sync, with respect to, I mean, conversion-wise, everybody does the translation themselves. So yeah, there's no social social interactions don't really enter into the protocol. But the problem is the number of leaves that get moved from one tree to the next has to be slow enough that most of the machines on the network, the vast majority on the network, can keep up. So translating those leaves has to be fast enough in a way. And it also has to be fast enough that it doesn't take forever, because you could just say, let's translate one leaf per block. This is going to take years. So there's a small back of the envelope calculation. We estimate that if we manage to translate about 5,000 leaves per block, it will take about a month. So that is acceptable. And I made this diagram to see that even if we translate, say, 10,000 leaves, it will still we can still have an acceptable replay time of is it 1 month? Yes, exactly. In 1 month, we could achieve that with, let's say, 50% of the slots missing. So while this is not what we want, it would be fairly resilient. So yeah, there's more information, more explanation on how things work. But yeah, that's the overview for of the overlay method. Then there's the offline conversion, or the the method where only a few nodes, specialized nodes, do the translation. So we have like three nodes on the network. One of them just stops and starts the conversion, and then the other two nodes start when it's ready, when the state becomes available, when the conversion is done. They can start downloading it, and then they are responsible for replaying every block between the moment the conversion started and the moment they fetched the state. So all those blocks have to be replayed before the deadline, the end of the fork. So that has the advantage that you're no longer dependent on the slowest nodes on the network, or at least the slowest nodes that you want to keep supporting. But the problem is, well, it's not as yeah, you need some social mechanism to figure out that the conversion was indeed correct, and it's also not very it's not really easy to handle. At least I tried to make a prototype of this, and found it was fairly difficult to implement, especially around the fork end, because as we know, a lot of people tend to download the latest, or download the the release before the fork, close enough to the fork. So if they have to download all that data and replay the blocks, what happens is that, I mean, the replay will work, but it will probably end past the fork. And if the majority of the network, or a big enough chunk of the network, misses the deadline, you have a long time without any blocks produced. So it's a bit risky. It's not really practical, or at least I found it extremely tacky the way I implemented it. So this is why, this method is not favored by me and people working close to me. But of course, this assumes that we can reach this speed with the overlay method, which we have indications that this is probably doable, but it still needs to be confirmed. And yeah, so going quickly over the local bulk conversion method, like I said, it's the worst of both worlds. Everybody does their own translation and then replace blocks on top of that. So same problem than the offline or the conversion node method, because if you update too late, your conversion will complete past the fork end. And if it's also bad with the Verkle, it's also it has the same disadvantages as the overlay method, because you're also pacing to be as slow as the slowest machine on the network. And then the state expiry, I don't have a graph for this one, but yeah, it's basically the overlay tree, except you don't touch you just don't touch the base tree. You keep you keep hitting the overlay tree first, and if it fails, you go into the MPT. And eventually, when state expiry is implemented, the MPT tree will be deleted from the view. Yep, that's pretty much it for the overview. Let me check if there are questions. Yes, I see some questions. So what is the impact regarding performance? Yeah, we are currently implementing I'm implementing that in Geth. So I don't have concrete numbers, but assume it will be. Right now, I assume it will be twice as slow. Hopefully faster than that. And yeah, I don't have numbers yet. What's the failure mode for this? You screw up at week 3. What are the? So I assume you're talking. Which method were you talking about, Putus?
So both the, I guess the local conversion one where you're talking about a month time if you do it at the current speed.
Yeah.
And the failure mode is for such a node. Barry is saying that well, you're going to be screwed and you're going to be 3 weeks late.
Yep.
So if is there any situation where we'll see like a bunch of nodes failing, like?
Right. I mean, yes. I assume there will be nodes failing. We should prepare for that in any case. But what happens is, in the case of the offline conversion, indeed, like if you find a screw up 3 weeks into the conversion, you have no choice but downloading a new conversion and starting over. So
I think Potus is talking about the overlay tree method, though. So,
Sorry,
for example, if I'm doing the overlay conversion over a month, and
Right. So both of them have the same.
Yeah.
So in the case of the overlay tree, it's you don't delete the data immediately. You only delete the data when like the scan of the iterator or the stride of the iterator has gone far enough that that data has been the data that got converted corresponds to blocks that were finalized. So if you screw up before the finalization time, you can go back. It's just a regular reorg. If you finalize something incorrect, you have the same problem as the current MPT. You finalize something incorrect, and you have to go through the mitigation process in that case, like pertaining to that case. But how do you recover? Yes, you will need someone to keep the data to be able to redistribute it and to sync so that other people can sync, basically.
So that I think is what Lucas is also asking. So my question can be rephrased. Look, so there's a percentage of nodes that need to stay online so that we go across the transition. And after that transition happened, then whomever was left over can just download and snap sync from them, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Right. So, right, Lukash, sorry, I'm just, okay, you can speak. I'm just reading what you wrote as well at the same time.
Yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
one thing is, because I'm all for the overlay tree, because I think the transition should be in protocol. Doing things outside of protocol is messy, and it has more points of failure, in my opinion.
Yep.
So if we have it in protocol, it's better. So I'm all for the overlay tree. The two questions are that I came to my mind is the transition time, because you were going for 1 month, and the shorter transition time, the harder are the hardware requirements, probably, right? Because
Yes.
it has more writes, it has more reads, so especially on IOPS, so it would be good for like an average or below average SATA drive to be able to do transition, right? So
Yes.
what are there any like numbers around that, and what would be potentially, if we find out that the numbers are problematic, what would be acceptable transition time? How much longer it could take, like 1 month, 3 months, 6 months? What would be something acceptable? I'm just throwing out like to find like a boundary where it's acceptable, or is 1 month is the target?
I mean, 1 month is, I would say, it's the target. Then what is the upper boundary? I mean, you guys tell me. I'm quite happy to go for 3 months. Like clearly a year, 2 years, that's too long, but I really don't mind 3 months personally.
So in my opinion, this should be like taken empirically. So we should have at some point. So we should have this configurable, right? How many nodes are we doing per per block? And then we should take some relatively slow ARM machine that we want to support, or whatever. It can be x86. And when we will be closed with our optimizations to the boundaries, then we should like try to just measure it and do that like empirically.
Right, absolutely. I mean, so what I can give you is I have a machine with very slow I/O, and it takes roughly 20 hours to convert. But that's like bulk conversion. When it comes to using the overlay tree, I'm still debugging it, so I can't give you numbers yet. I hope to be able to give them as soon as the thing has been debugged. But I expect, 1 week is probably on this machine. 1 week is a reasonable expectation. 1 month, I would say, is the safe period.
Okay, so it's not looking that bad.
But that's on the slow machine, but that's still x86. That's it's just like the bottleneck is I/O by far. When it comes to
what is the storage layout that is used? Is it like Aragon layout, or is it more like Geth layout? What is the layout of the MPT partition market?
Yeah, so I have a hard time answering that question because we're about to change it in Geth. But it's let's say it's a bit in between, but it's closer to the Geth layout.
It's a path-based layout, like the new layout in Geth.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean,
okay, so
it's not quite complete, but that's what we're shooting for.
Because it depends on the layout, right? I think in the current Nethermind layout, which is like the previous Geth layout, it might take longer because the reads will be very slow, comparable to slower. But we are migrating to new layouts as we speak, so it might get a lot faster in the future. And I hope we will get there before Verkle tree hard fork. So yeah,
right.
I hope.
I think Verkle tree will imply a change in the database layout. I mean, it sure does already from what I can see. I just wanted to go back on something you said. Like, ARM machines depends what you mean by ARM machines, because if you still want to be able to do that on Raspberry Pi, I can't promise you. Even the Raspberry Pi 4 with 8 GB of RAM, which I think is the most up to date. That might not, that will probably not work, and I don't think we should support that. What we should, however, strive to support is the ROG 5B, the supercharged one, because like the supercharged Raspberry Pi, because this one has 16 GB of RAM. I think it's got faster I/O, so that would be my cutoff line. I mean, if you ask me personally, that would be my cutoff line. I don't think we should get rid of ARM entirely, but I would say we should not really care to save the Raspberry Pi if we have to.
Also, the Rocket Pool community has moved to the ROG 5B and is recommending it for those with low power needs.
Nice. Okay, so I guess
I was also saying that I don't think so. We have benchmarks for how the code for the Verkle tree works on ARM. Like, we have performance differences for our machines, but I don't think so we have any benchmark for ARM. So it might be possible that that part specifically also becomes a bottleneck, like converting and calculating commitments for too many leaves insertion. So we have to consider that also.
Yes. Absolutely. We do not have, if it wasn't clear, we do not have, sorry, I'm looking for the word, benchmarks for ARM beyond the pure crypto execution.
Okay, so something to add to the list. And the last question of mine would be, okay, if someone spins up a node during the transition period, he needs to replay all the blocks, right?
In the conversion method, yes.
overlay, right? Overlay tree.
Not-
Does it make
No,
sense?
no.
Uh-huh.
In the offline conversion, or I forgot what it's called, the conversion node method. Yes, it has to replay all the blocks. Otherwise, it could simply, in the case of the overlay, it needs
Mhm.
to download the data from like the MPT data. So that's like SnapSync without the healing phase.
Yeah.
And then I guess it can just, well, if we start putting blocks proofs in blocks right off the bat, you can just get the missing data from the block itself. So you do not need to really sync beyond. You do not need to sync the state. You do not need a snap sync for the Verkle tree.
But will we have some kind of snap sync for the Verkle tree post transition?
Well, what I was, I mean, okay, I see Tanishk has raised his hand because he's worked on the topic more than I did.
Okay.
My understanding before I let him speak is that you do not actually need snap sync. But go ahead, Tanishk.
No, I was just wanted to say that I'm not sure that we will be able to add proofs to the block before the conversion completes, because we will not have proof of pre-state. So I'm not like, so that cannot be used for healing. And
Sorry to interrupt, but that's actually not true, because when you do overlay, the tree starts empty. So you have the data from the start. So you can already produce proofs, but you only produce proofs not for the entire state, but just for the overlay tree.
Yeah, I think it's possible.
My question, so we'll not be able to prove that there's a value that you picked up from MPT and then you inserted into Verkle tree and then use that value to do an execution, right? If
Right.
the pre-state, so that value will not be able to prove in the pre-state.
That's a good point. Right, that's true. You could not do that. You would not be able to prove this part, but you would still be able to prove that just the data that was converted, even though you can't prove where it's coming from, you can prove that it has been added, and then use it for the sync.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Patus?
Yeah, so I take it that since it's the first call, I can ask very stupid questions. Suppose that we are at past the fork and everyone is running on Verkle, and I want to start a new node. So what's the mechanism to back sync this node?
Define back sync, like all the way from the start?
Well, yeah, I'd like to back sync all the way from since Genesis.
Right. So it depends on the method. And once again, Tanishk input is probably the better one at this point on this question. But the way I see it is you start downloading the blocks. Okay, if you want to do a full sync, let's start with the full sync.
No, but I'd like to do the cheapest possible thing. So I suppose that I can just download bits of the state as we do now with SnapSync.
Yep.
And then download all the blocks, and I can just backfill the blocks just by checking block hash or something like that.
Yes.
Okay, and then I can start regenerating some pivot states or something like this.
You could, if you go backwards and you have the proofs in the block, you could start. Okay, once again, I haven't implemented it, so I might be saying something incorrect. But the way I see it is, you can indeed start backfilling the state as you go back, as you go up the chain. Or you could simply download it at a given point and only download a full view of the state at a given point and backfill up to that point, basically.
I see.
Will there be like a state downloading mechanism? Or because I see that at some point this will be slower than downloading just the state.
Yeah, I mean, the point is indeed to have pretty much something like SnapSync, except the healing phase is replaced by the proof you find in the block.
Okay.
That's the general idea. Like I said, I'm talking. This is the most theoretical part of this meeting. It hasn't been tried that I know of.
Also,
that's sort of like that explains how I get to having a running node. But now I want to say how much my, like, they put it the way that Peter wrote it, like how much my ex-girlfriend spent that day 2 years ago before Verkle. How do I get to see this on the node that I just spawned off?
Yeah, I mean, in that model, okay, so how do you go back all the way past the moment you downloaded the data? Yeah, you just go back in time and you look at the proofs, and the proofs will tell you, this is the, I mean, not even re-executing everything. You just look at what's in the proof, like the proof data.
Oh, I'm
and
sorry. Okay, so I think I understood. So the proofs, this is something that I misunderstood completely from Verkle. So the proofs are going to prove the full state even before the Verkle transition.
No, not in that. No, that would not be the case.
Then how can the block proofs prove me something about how much my ex-girlfriend spent 2 years before the transition?
Right, so that's the part. I mean, I would really like to let Tanish talk. I'm sorry for hogging the thing, but the idea would be that at some point, indeed, like there's a conversion happening of the whole. I mean, okay, either your girlfriend spent something before the fork, in which case it will be found in the block proof. Otherwise, you have no other choice but yeah, I guess to full sync. If it's pre Verkle fork, you have to full sync, I guess, or archive. Find an archive that will tell you, archive node that will tell you what you need.
Okay. Yeah. So I need to. So, and people are aware of this.
So I just wanted to say that I think the mechanism will remain same as it is right now. Like in the current situation, also, if you want to get the answer to your question, you'll have to do a full sync. Because snap sync or fast sync, you get a state for a particular block, but like you don't have the previous state to verify or question like what was spent 2 years back. So I think you anyway have to do a full or archive sync, and the method will remain exactly the same in the Verkle scenario itself. You'll just do a full sync, and at the point of transition, like right now, you are converting 5,000 leaks every 12 seconds, but while syncing, you'll convert as much as you can.
Sorry, yeah, because I realized we're getting close to the end of the call. I'm happy to stay a bit longer. Just want to make sure that we proceed to the next topic. If and take Putu's question offline. I mean, yeah, go ahead, Lukasz.
Oh, I have one more question, open question maybe, because with Verkle trees, we are now bloating the blocks, right? So the blocks will be a lot. How much bigger the blocks would be? Like 50%, 100% more?
Our estimate was like, yeah, 100%.
100% more. So looking at the database size, the blocks are currently half of the blockchain size on disk with state pruned right now. So we are bloating them a lot more. So Verkle tree will probably expedite 4444, or was it the one that state that we can expire blocks, right? From the network a lot, because that would be a big increase in size.
Yes.
Of the block database.
Yes, indeed. If you can do that, it's better. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it will like be a necessity quite soon because of that. And if we get there, then we cannot really rely on replaying proofs from blocks, because they might not be available on the network that easily. Maybe the portal network will be handling that, but we'll see how it goes, right? So again, there will be a need for like a state sync for the Verkle trees at some point, like completely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, it's like snap sync with Verkle used as a healing method. Josh, there are still some questions, but I don't know, was it a hard deadline? Because it's supposed to end in 2 minutes.
I suppose it's up to folks on the call. I realize that maybe I should have made the time a bit longer for the call for folks that have to drop off because I scheduled it now. Otherwise, we can continue, and for folks that have to drop off, I can provide a summary of the conversation. But perhaps we should have a hard stop in the next 10 minutes or so.
Okay,
Does
so
that make sense? Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I'll try to just answer the questions quickly, and then we can move to the next agenda item. I think that would be required, but now, okay, G11 Tech. I'm not sure I understood your question. If you're still around. Okay, I'll skip. Right, so wood archive nodes will have to keep a pre-Verkle state.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think my question was around SnapSync only. So what you mentioned that SnapSync won't be required, so I was a bit confused. I mean, something analogous to SnapSync will be required, right?
Something analogous to SnapSync will be required. Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Right, Barnabas was asking, we'll have to keep a pre-Verkle state. I mean, it's kind of the same question in a way. It depends on the method, but yeah, the pre-Verkle state will be required to reorg during the transition. But once it's done, unless it's the last method, the state expiry method, you do not need to keep the pre-Verkle state. And with this, maybe we move on to the next topic.
Perfect. So next topic, 1 second, let me bring up the agenda again.
I have another question. So the current CL spec, so which basically has stamp proof. So what method does it corresponds to, or is it same in all the methods?
Sorry, I didn't quite get the question. Like the CL spec, yeah, it contains proofs.
Yes.
Like you add proofs to the execution data, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, you have. So again, let me rephrase the questions because I have more than one. So there is straight root, and then there is execution something, right?
Yeah.
So state root will be frozen. There is
Yes.
execution witness.
The straight root of the MPT will be frozen. Yes.
Okay, so then the execution witness will then carry the Verkle root, right?
Yes, the execution witness will only contain Verkle information.
And then there are list of proofs. So what are these? I mean, I was just
There's
checking
not a
them out,
list.
and
No, it's not a list of proof. It's a list of locations that got touched in the tree.
in that particular block.
In that particular block.
Okay, and so basically this is independent of any of the transition methods.
This is yes, it's only dependent of what got executed. But of course, if the transition method touches some areas, some locations in the code or in the data or wherever, they need to be added to the proof for verification.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Next agenda item is pre-image distribution with Perry. Perry, since we are short on time, do you want to go through a quick version of this, or would you prefer to wait until the next call? Completely up to you.
I can go through a really quick version of this. So there's a couple of ways we can look at pre-image distribution, as long as we can make sure that it's extremely easy to verify what data we've received. We could probably use a combination of either CDNs and follow a similar strategy as we did with checkpoint sync, where we can either make like a service that is easy for a lot of people to run, and enough people on the network can altruistically run these endpoints where you can fetch the pre-image from. Additionally, we can share this by torrenting and a few other places. So it wouldn't necessarily matter where the users get the pre-image from, as long as we make it really easy to verify. I think that's the gist of the topic.
Isn't the problem here that the pre-images will be already outdated when you get them? Because the network will be already further down the line and some pre-images will be missing.
Exactly. So we have to rely more on CDN style methods with a really
Why
low.
not just code it into some protocol like SnapSync, similar protocol into the
Well,
nodes?
why not? The simpler solution is like just make an upgrade of the client at some point that starts recording pre-images from then on.
Okay.
And you only have to distribute historical pre-images before that point in time.
Okay, but that's there's one potential problem here. So the client can record pre-images. That would have to be hard fork, so everyone would record from this point. That's like a bit problematic, right? Because okay, how to make sure. Mhm.
Yeah. I guess well, I mean, it doesn't have to be a hard fork. It just has to be an agreed date. It's not a hard fork. It's at most a kind of soft fork, I guess. Like it's just a point in time where we all agree that we start.
But
running
there will
this
be nodes that will miss that, and we cannot leave them behind, right? So people who spin up later, be able to.
Right. Well, then they would have to get the diff from somewhere as well.
Yeah, but if I may add, so there's an EIP describing exactly this that I created, 68 something. I'll copy paste it. If I would say if people don't upgrade, like it's some kind of, if you decide on a date, it's like a fork, even though it's not, it's not a proper fork. It's just some feature that gets added. If people don't update by this time, it's like if people did not update before the merge, they simply drop off the network. If they don't follow the protocol, they drop off the network. That's the point. So I don't think it's a big problem.
But if they want to rejoin the network, they need to be able to download all these diffs from the date we decided to record them to the date they rejoin, because otherwise they won't have them, right? Because they won't replay all those blocks.
Yep, that's true.
Any other thoughts there, Perry?
No, I don't think there's anything else for me. I'm trying to remember what we discussed about why we don't want to just add this to the sync, but I can't seem to find any notes on it. Maybe Guillaume remembers.
Just pure laziness.
Truth be told, I'm not sure if adding it to the sync wouldn't be a similar amount of work and it would be more stable and reliable. But
yeah,
I'm not sure.
I agree. I think one of the reasons the sharing the pre-image over out of protocol methods was enticing earlier was if we were to go down the conversion node method, where there's enough out of protocol concepts to begin with. But if we're not doing that at all and we're going with everything in protocol, it does actually make more sense to probably include it in the sync.
Yeah, that's true. We can work towards adding this. It should be part of the EIP. Yeah.
And it's more standalone then, right? You don't have to rely much. Okay, the Aragon would probably start the initial source, but then it would spread out to other nodes and wouldn't be a big deal.
Okay, well, if folks agree, we can maybe pin this for now, and we can come back to this in the next call. In the meantime, we can continue the conversation, of course. Guillaume, do you want to quickly go through we really just have one last agenda item, which is where should client teams get started?
Yeah, I'll give a very quick overview, and then people can contact me or Tanishq if they have more specific questions. But okay, so there are 3 things you should do if you want to get started. Look at the crypto, because this is what the rest of the whole effort is built upon. Yeah, so Kev would be the go-to guy, I guess, for this if you want to implement the crypto yourself. Oh yeah, of course, there's also Gotti. Yeah, so, and what else? Yeah, so I would say try to join Beverly Hills. That's the long-term goal. But we will relaunch Beverly Hills. So that's if you're an EL developer. If you're a CL developer, try to join Kaustinen, because currently we only have Lighthouse running. It served us well, but yeah, like you have a reference. Just try to implement the spec, basically. And there was yeah, of course, the other thing you can do is read the EIP draft in any case, and verify the data model. Yes, right. So especially when you read the EIP, make sure you understand how the tree is built, because this is what has the biggest impact on the design, on the software design. And yeah, that's roughly what it is. And then if you have questions, of course, shoot me, either contact me on Telegram or on the Discord channel.
Enrico has a question around the spec for the CL side.
Yeah, it's still a PR. I don't know why it hasn't been merged. I'm copy pasting it right now. Here we go. Too many windows. So it's currently a pull request.
Perfect. Thank you, Guillaume. Okay, anything else, Guillaume? I think the only remaining question, this is maybe just for you, and in terms of when we'd like to have the next call, what is the cadence that you're thinking for this, Guillaume, and anyone else?
Yeah, my opinion is currently there's not. It's mostly like we're trying to get some benchmarking. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm happy with a call next month, like first week of June. But of course, if people feel it's necessary to talk more often, I can do that as well.
Okay. Unless any other thoughts or objections, I will schedule the call for then. Make sure that you all are on the invite. Ping me if anything else comes up in terms of scheduling. And yeah, Guillaume, anything else before we end?
Nope. Thanks for organizing this.
Of course, and thank you, everybody, of course, for being here. It's all very much appreciated, and yeah, thank you for joining the Verkle effort. All right. Talk to you later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.